I turned 30 back in January and hit that point where being single stopped feeling like freedom and started feeling like isolation. I hadn't been in a real relationship in years, and the loneliness was starting to get to me. I had always resisted online dating. It felt unnatural, but eventually I caved. I downloaded Hinge. I swiped for a few days without much luck, just the usual dry conversations. Then, on a Monday night while I was watching hockey, I got a notification. I had matched with a girl named Rebecca. Her profile checked all the boxes. She was beautiful, she had a cool job, and her photos made her look fun. Shots of her at concerts, playing darts with friends, just living a normal, happy life. We hit it off immediately. We messaged back and forth for days, joking around, flirting a little. She seemed normal, safe. We decided to meet up that Friday at a local arcade bar. It was a popular spot, usually crowded, which made me feel comfortable. Friday night came. I drove over there around 8 p.m. When I pulled into the lot, I was surprised. For a Friday night, the place was dead. There were only 2 other cars in the massive parking lot. It was eerily quiet. I pulled into a spot right near the front entrance, under a street lamp. I checked my phone to tell her I was there, but before I could type, a text came through from her. "Hey, I'm having car trouble. My engine is making a weird noise. I parked on the other side of the building. Can you come help me?" I frowned. I looked at the building. The other side of this bar wasn't a parking lot. I knew this area well. The side and back of the building faced a dense patch of woods. There was nothing back there but dumpsters, a chain-link fence, and darkness. Why would she park back there? The main lot was empty. I tried calling her. 1 ring, straight to voicemail. I hung up and started typing. "Where exactly are you? There's no parking back there." Immediately, another text came through. "Please just come around back. I'm scared. I need help." Something in my gut twisted. It wasn't just suspicion, it was a primal warning. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. It didn't make sense. If she was scared, why not walk to the front where the entrance was? Why lure me into the dark? I sat there in my idling car, staring at the dark corner of the building. The silence of the parking lot felt heavy, like the air before a thunderstorm. I made a decision. I typed back, "This doesn't feel right. I'm leaving." I threw my car into reverse. The moment my reverse lights flicked on, illuminating the pavement, I saw movement. From the dark corner of the building, the exact spot she wanted me to walk to, 2 figures sprinted out. They were men. They were dressed in dark clothing, and they were wearing ski masks. They weren't walking. They were running, full speed, toward my car. Panic exploded in my chest. I didn't think, I just reacted. I slammed on the gas pedal, spinning the wheel. My tires screeched against the asphalt as I swung the car around. I saw one of them raise his arm. He was holding something heavy. Thud! A massive impact shook the car. He'd thrown a rock or a brick at my vehicle as I sped past. I didn't look back. I floored it, running the stop sign at the exit of the lot, my heart pounding so hard I thought I was going to pass out. I drove 80 miles an hour all the way back to my apartment. When I finally got home and parked in my garage, I got out and looked at the back of my car. There was a massive, jagged dent on the top of the trunk. If that rock had gone through the window, it would have taken my head off. I called the police, breathless, explaining everything. They took a report, but they were honest with me. They said without a license plate or a clear description of the men, there wasn't much they could do. They patrolled the area, but the men were gone. There was no Rebecca. There was no girl with car trouble. Just 2 predators in ski masks, hiding in the shadows behind a dumpster, waiting for a guy lonely enough to walk into the dark to help a pretty girl. It started innocently enough, exactly how these things are supposed to start. Last spring, I matched with a woman named Rachel on Bumble. Her profile was the definition of safe. She had these warm, inviting photos, hiking in the local state park, a picture of her holding a golden retriever, sipping coffee at a cafe I actually recognized. She worked in marketing, she was 27, and her bio was funny without being trying too hard. We matched, and unlike most conversations on these apps that fizzle out after a hey or how are you, we actually clicked. We talked for about a week straight. She was engaging, she asked questions, and she seemed genuinely interested in getting to know me. There were no red flags. No weird requests for money, no vague answers, no overly sexual messages. She even insisted on taking things slow, which, honestly, I found refreshing. By the time Wednesday rolled around, we had plans. She picked the place, a nice Italian spot in a quiet part of town. It wasn't too fancy, but it was definitely a step up from a dive bar. I put on a nice shirt, made sure I looked presentable, and drove over there feeling that nervous excitement you get before a first date. I arrived about 10 minutes early. I texted her, "Hey, just parked, walking in now." No response. I went inside and stood by the hostess stand. The restaurant was moderately busy, the low hum of conversation and clinking silverware filling the air. I checked my phone again, nothing. 10 minutes went by, then 20. I started getting that sinking feeling in my stomach, the one where you realize you're probably being stood up. I sent another text. "Is everything okay?" Still nothing. After 30 minutes of standing there like an idiot, checking my watch every 30 seconds, the hostess asked if I wanted a table. I felt embarrassed, so I told her I was waiting for someone named Rachel. She checked the reservation list, frowned, and told me no one under that name had checked in. That was it. I was done. I turned to leave, angry at myself for wasting my Wednesday night. But just as I reached for the door handle, it swung open. A man walked in. He didn't look like he was there for dinner. He was maybe mid-40s, heavy-set, wearing a faded black hoodie and jeans that looked dirty. He hadn't shaved in days. He scanned the lobby aggressively until his eyes locked onto me. He walked straight into my personal space. "Are you Jake?" he asked. His voice was gravelly, flat. I was taken aback. My name wasn't on a reservation. Only Rachel knew I was there. "Yeah," I said, hesitant. "Who are you?" "I'm Rachel's brother," he said. He didn't smile. He didn't offer a handshake. He just stared at me with these cold, dead eyes. He told me Rachel wasn't feeling well. He said she had started getting a migraine right before she was supposed to leave, but she really wanted to meet me. She didn't want to cancel and look like a flake, so she asked him to come pick me up and bring me to their apartment. He claimed they lived just a few blocks over. My brain was trying to process this. It sounded absurd. Why didn't she just text me? "Phone died," he said quickly. Too quickly. She forgot to charge it. He gestured toward the door. "Come on, my car is right out front. It's too icy to walk. I'll drive you over." I stood there, frozen. On one hand, I didn't want to be a jerk. If she really was sick and went through the trouble of sending her brother, refusing would make me look terrible. But on the other hand, everything about this man screamed danger. He didn't look like the brother of the girl in the photos. He smelled of stale cigarettes and unwashed clothes. And the way he was standing, too close, blocking my path to the exit, it felt predatory. "I'm good," I said, taking a half step back. "I can walk if it's close. Just give me the address." He didn't give it to me. He just shook his head. "It's confusing to get to. Just hop in. It'll take 2 minutes." "No," I said, firmer this time. "I think I'm just gonna go home. Tell her I hope she feels better." I tried to step around him, but he sidestepped, physically blocking me again. He wasn't subtle about it this time. He loomed over me. "You're going to be upset," he said. His voice dropped an octave. It wasn't a concern anymore. It was a threat. She specifically asked me to bring you. The air in the lobby felt suddenly very thin. I looked over at the hostess stand, but they were busy seating a family. I was alone with him. I looked him right in the eye and lied. "I'm gonna text her later." He stared at me for what felt like an eternity. He was sizing me up, calculating whether he could force me. Then, finally, he stepped aside. "Have a good night," he muttered, but the way he said it, it sounded like, "You're making a mistake." I didn't walk to my car, I practically jogged. I got in, locked the doors immediately, and started the engine. As I pulled out of the parking spot, I looked back at the restaurant entrance. He was standing there, just outside the glass doors, watching my car drive away. He wasn't going back inside to eat, he was just watching. I drove home with my heart hammering against my ribs, checking my rearview mirror every few seconds to make sure no one was following me. When I finally got into my apartment, I locked the deadbolt and collapsed on the couch. Around 11 p.m., my phone buzzed. It was a notification from Bumble. A message from Rachel. It said, "Why didn't you come?" I stared at the screen. My thumbs shook as I typed back, "Your brother came to the restaurant. He said you were sick and tried to get me to your apartment." I watched the 3 dots appear instantly. Her reply chilled me to the bone. "I don't have a brother." I sat there in silence, the blood draining from my face. I messaged back frantically, explaining exactly what the man looked like, what he said, how he tried to get me in his car. She stopped responding. I tried to tell myself maybe she was just freaked out, but then, an hour later, the notifications started. My phone lit up. "Suspicious login attempt detected on your Gmail." Then, "New login detected on your Bank of America account." Then, Instagram. Someone was brute forcing their way into my entire digital life. I spent the next hour changing every password I owned, sweating, terrified. The next morning, I opened Bumble to check our chat. Rachel's profile was gone, deleted completely. But the nightmare wasn't over. Around noon, I got a text message from a number I didn't know. No greeting, no context, just 5 words. "You should have come with me." I dropped my phone. I showed my roommate, and he told me to block it. I did, but 10 minutes later, a new number texted me. "We saw you." Then another number. "Next time, don't waste my time." Then a message that made me nauseous. It used my full legal name, my middle name included, which wasn't on my dating profile. "You made it harder for yourself, Jacob." That night, I was sitting in my living room with the lights off, too scared to make a sound. Suddenly, knock, knock. 2 loud, deliberate knocks on my apartment door. I froze. I couldn't breathe. I waited for a voice, for a delivery guy, for anything. Silence. Then one more knock, harder. I crept to the door and looked through the peephole. The hallway was empty, but I could hear the faint sound of heavy boots walking down the stairwell. Thud, thud, thud. The next day, I went back to the restaurant. I needed to know. I asked the hostess if she remembered the man in the hoodie. She looked disturbed. She told me that man hadn't had a reservation. One of the servers had noticed him pacing back and forth on the sidewalk outside the restaurant for an hour before I arrived. He had been watching every person who walked in, waiting for me. I went to the police, but there was nothing they could do. No crime had technically been committed. The phone numbers were burners. They couldn't trace them. I changed my number. I deleted every dating app. I moved on with my life, looking over my shoulder every time I walked to my car. About a week later, I went to take the trash out behind my apartment building. As I lifted the lid of the dumpster, I saw a piece of paper folded and shoved into the plastic handle. It had my name written on it in black marker. I opened it. Inside was a printed photograph. It was me,
standing in the lobby of the restaurant that night, looking at my phone, waiting for Rachel. The photo was taken from outside the window, looking in. The man hadn't just been inside with me, someone had been watching me the entire time. On the back of the photo, written in the same black marker, was a single word: you.
Rachel never existed. The profile, the photos, the witty banter, it was all a lure. Someone built a perfect persona just to get me to that restaurant, to get me into that car. And to this day, I don't know what was waiting for me at that apartment, but I know I wouldn't have come back from it.